Hey, Critical Analysis. This is your next video for author's bias. This was kind of touched on in Chapter 8 and then was really the focus in Chapter 9. So Chapter 9 is the main chapter that really does introduce the bias that authors can or may not have and how you can identify bias in a piece of writing. So we're going to go ahead and get into author bias, and as I'm clicking in here, just a quick reminder that you have to have all 10 skills done. I'm recording this for your week 12, so you only have a couple weeks left. I've been trying to touch base with anyone who's been kind of falling behind with their mastery skills, but please make sure you get them all done. Use my videos as a guide because they really will help navigate those through. So we're going to do post-test 1. All right. What is meant by an author bias? Like, what is meant by author bias in writing? So if you look at your options, author bias literally just is the author's opinion. So what they prefer and how they express it in writing. So if an author has bias, it means their opinion is evident, whether it's positive or negative. If they have no bias, it means they either weigh both the good and the bad equally, or they're neutral. You can't tell their preference. 2, which of the following is not one of the ways to recognize author bias in writing? So if you look at your options, you should be looking to see if they are a fact or opinion. You should be looking to see if they're using positive or negative words. The critics, that one's questionable. If they both positive, negative, yeah. So the only one that really has no bearing is the critics. That has nothing to do with author bias. You are looking to see if they're using facts, opinions, or positive, negative type language. Number 3, which of the following types of writing is an example of an author bias would be most evident? Excuse me. Journals, articles, and textbooks, I'll tell you right now, are supposed to be without bias. They're supposed to just give facts. An editorial is literally an opinion. A newspaper editorial is when someone gives their opinion on a topic. So that is when the bias would be present. Number 4, the tone of an author's writing. So this kind of goes back to a previous mastery skill on recognizing author's purpose and tone, touched on a little bit in Chapter 8. So the tone of the writing, if you look to see here, if you look at your choices, I'm kind of looking through here, it's very similar to bias in terms of like what words are they using, what phrases, how are they presenting this topic. So it's the words and phrases an author chooses to help determine the bias, because tone and bias often aid one another in establishing if there's bias or what the tone is. Number 5, which of the following is most likely not an example of author bias? So if you look, anything that has a qualifier there, positive, that is an example of bias. Against, that's an example of bias. Political cartoons have bias inherent to them. So a textbook definition is not an example of bias because that should be unbiased. All right, objective tone can also be described as what? Objective means straightforward or neutral. It means there is no bias present. Question 7, an opinion in writing. An opinion in writing, we know opinions are not neutral, they are not objective, and they are not made up of facts. It is the author's point of view. So it is how an author feels about a topic. All right, so we're going to take a look. You can see questions 8 and 9 go off of the same selection. So I'm going to read this. Big business in the United States has both positive and negative aspects. Okay, so right now they're introducing the fact that they're going to possibly introduce both good and bad. On the one hand, big companies can harness all of their resources to compete, which makes it difficult for small businesses to survive. On the other hand, big corporations offer a tremendous amount of jobs to communities across the nation. Okay, so if I look at that, to me, they give both the positive and the negative. They're not just weighing on one or the other. So that is neutral, meaning they're unbiased because they gave attention to both pretty equally there. Okay, same selection, but it says the words in the above passage that determine the answer to question 8. The author's attitude in the passage above is, so if we kind of look at the fact that we know it's neutral, they're looking at both positive and negative. All right, I'm going to have you go ahead and just do number 10 on your own. So you're going to read number 10. read the selection, and then try to figure out the tone, and then hit submit, and that should finish up your author bias post test 1. Until next time.